Ernest Hemingway wrote, "The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places." I have been broken and knocked down, but I keep getting lifted up as a stronger version of myself. I frequently get lost, yet here I am, an imperfect and incomplete work of God's creation, being slowly drawn to my ultimate destination. I continue to search for the path to salvation that has been called as narrow and as difficult to walk as a razor's edge. I'm not even sure I know what it looks like, but I continue to search. Join me as I share my experiences and speak with others who walk the path to wellness and self-care. Who knows what we might discover along the way. You're on the Razor's Edge with Mike Murdy. We're on with Jesse Veek of Upbeet Produce, and Jesse, say hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike. Pleasure to be here today.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I think it's kind of an interesting story how Jesse and I bumped into each other. He was doing deliveries of produce at Basics, our local health food and wellness shop. I love that place, and full disclosure, I'm a member. And Jesse happened to notice as I was flitting around. I stuck my hand out, and you saw the ichthus on my hand, and asked if I was a believer, and I thought that was pretty cool. The conversation ensued, and here we are today.
Yeah.
I had the great privilege of coming out to Jesse's farm recently, and he's been teaching me about Csa farming and whatnot. Why don't you explain briefly what Csa farming is to begin with?
Yeah, so to give it a big overview, it's basically a membership cooperative type of partnership. So I grow the vegetables through the growing season, and then I have members who actually buy a share into my farm in the wintertime. And so they're basically buying their entire bulk of produce for the 22-week growing season all in one lump sum. So they're getting a bulk discount. They're also getting a weekly or every other week allotment of vegetables, depending on which membership they sign up for. So it's really a good way for the locals to get fresh local produce. And it's great for the farmer because it helps me with cash flow in the winter. And, I'm growing stuff knowing that it's going to be sold rather than growing it
Hoping.
and having the hassle of, of marketing it while I'm in the busyness of the growing season. So it's a win-win for the farmer and the members.
Well, and just for the uneducated like myself, I had to look it up that it was Community Supported Agriculture, the acronym CSA.
Yes.
Well, I have to say that something else that isn't self-evident to someone who's not a foodie, the difference being that this is not only freshly locally grown, this is organically grown. You said you even grow some of the crops that you grow are heirloom crops that you're propagating yourself. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so everything I grow is certified organic. I probably do maybe 10 to 20% of my crops are heirloom. I'm wanting to get more into heirlooms, but they do as big of a demand as they are more challenging to grow. So with this being my first few years, I don't want to really get into it too much. And then so I start everything in a greenhouse. I transplant roughly 60 to 70% of everything. And the rest is basically seeds put in directly right into the field. I prefer transplanting, but not all crops do well with transplanting.
Well, and I happen to have a really nice photograph of that really cool walk-behind tool you use to plant, and we'll intersperse that here in post-production. So
yeah, no, that'll be perfect. It's a game changer. Saves a lot of time.
What is an heirloom crop, and what are the benefits of it? Why would someone want an heirloom produce?
Yeah, so heirloom basically just means that it's been around for a long time. It's something that is not a hybrid, so meaning it's something in its original variety. It hasn't been crossed with any other varieties, meaning that you can replant it year after year and the seed will continue to germinate versus with hybrids, they take two different varieties because they want traits from each variety that are beneficial, which is great. But then if you try to replant those seeds the next year, they won't germinate because they had to do some crossing there to begin with.
So maybe unmonkeyed with kind
Yeah,
of.
it's unmonkeyed with. It's very. Sometimes the flavor is better in heirlooms, especially I've noticed that with tomatoes,
Mhm.
and you can get some just more rustic and interesting looking produce from it.
Well, and I know that anybody that's followed along with my journey, that food is such a essential part of my search for wellness and health
Mhm.
that it makes sense to me on a fundamental level that you would go back to eating whole foods that are freshly grown, that have not been genetically modified, even though it's for the best of intentions. These are plants that have been growing for centuries, some of them, that my grandparents and great grandparents ate. Is that
Yeah, and I do want to make one clarification. So, there actually is a difference between hybrids and genetically modified. So, I grow a large amount of hybrids on my farm, but those, in fact, the genes have not been messed with. So, I just want to clarify so that people don't think
mm-hmm.
I'm doing genetically modified. So, actually, under certified organic, GMO seeds are strictly prohibited. I can't use them whatsoever. Um, but yes, heirlooms, even heirlooms compared to hybrids, can have some benefits to them because it's basically food in its purest state.
Okay. So no Franken produce.
Yeah.
For someone who's trying to grow organically and to bring the best, healthy, love-filled crop they can to the public, you're dependent a lot on the people that grow around you. And you're tucked away in a little pocket where it's all organically grown around you, so you're not susceptible to the drift and whatnot of what other farmers are doing. But is that's a big thing, I imagine, yeah?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. Actually, um, because there is no tree buffers between my field and my neighbor's field right next to me, it could be quite detrimental if he was conventional, because there's literally just like a maybe like a 20-foot wide grassy creek that separates us. So yes, it's very important, and actually, though there are organic fields around me, sometimes chemicals can drift for miles.
Mm-hmm.
So being separated from those conventional fields by miles is huge.
Right, right. Well, and on top of that, I assume your water source. I mean, because you're watering when necessary, but the water that the good Lord doesn't provide, and you've got, I assume, a well to draw from.
Yes, as a matter of fact, my fields border my parents' house. Long story short, my fields are 2 miles away from my farm. Just there's just certain agreements in place, and that's the way it is for now. So I actually take water from my parents' well. They're gracious enough to
Mm-hmm.
let me tap the well. So and their water source is pretty pure because the fields around them have been farmed organically for, I want to say, 5+ years.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about nitrates. I get it tested for E. coli per being certified organic. They
Mm-hmm.
make me do that. So yeah, I have a very good water source.
You mentioned this a couple of times, and I think it warrants further conversation. The regulations, the bureaucracy, the things that you have to go through, the layers of protection to be certified organic. Talk a little bit about that.
Actually, the government offers a rebate program. I can't think of the name of it, the exact name of it right now, but it's basically a cost share reimbursement that I believe it's through the USDA. I've applied for it the past 2 years, and it's knocked off 75% of my cost of annual certification fees. The process you have to go through to become certified organic. Now, I'm speaking from experience of the plots of land that I rent were already certified organic. So it was merely a filling out the paperwork to switch operations.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what the process is like for, let's say, somebody who's starting on a completely new piece of land, whether it was farmed conventionally, whether it's been sitting there for years. However, I can say from experience of land that I've actually looked into expanding into, that was somebody's yard, the process does not seem that difficult. They're basically looking for a record that no chemicals and no harmful substances have been applied there within the past 3 years. And then it's a simple matter of filling out the paperwork. You have an inspector that comes out. As far as my annual upkeep with certification, the agency I work with is Csa, and they're very easy to work with.
Well, that's encouraging to know.
Yeah.
And for anybody that's interested, what does it cost? What does it cost for someone to be a share owner in Upbeat Produce?
Yeah, so I have two different share options. I have a weekly share and I have an every other week share.
Okay.
And then within that, you can choose to get a single share every week, or you can choose to get a double share every week. And then the same within the every other week share. You can do a single every other week or double share every other week. Basically, somebody I would say the most popular share is actually the every other week single share. And that one is $225. And then the next most popular one would
for a week or for the whole year?
For the whole year. Yeah.
How many weeks is that?
That would be 11 weeks worth of produce over the span of 22 weeks because they're getting it every other week. And it runs June through October. And then the next most popular one would be the weekly single share, which is 22 weeks of produce every week through the growing season, getting one bag full of produce. And that one is $415. And of course, new this year, I am offering a CSA share customization where people can actually pay a little bit more depending on what size share they got. The pricing's all on my website. And they actually get to pick what they want in their share every week, as I will be sending out a list of this is what's available this week, select X number of items, and submit the form.
That's awesome. And so we don't bog down with a lot of details, because I know if you read off a list to me, my eyes glaze over. But just in broad brushstrokes, what kind of produce would someone expect in their bag of groceries every week?
Yeah, so they're gonna get a lot of the things they're used to, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of the tomatoes, carrots, onions, beets, peppers, melons, cucumbers. The things that are the most, you could say, popular items.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big foundation with those. And then otherwise, I do offer some more unique items as well that I don't always include as much as those, but I like to offer them just because some people like them and like to explore them. So things like kohlrabi, fennel.
And for people like me that are, pretty much down the middle, Mike, when you include these other vegetables, once in a while in the store, I grab something, I don't even know how to pronounce it, what it is. Then I'm like, well, what do I do? I go home and chew on it,
Yeah.
So what kind of guidance do they get? Do you work with these folks?
Absolutely. So, let's say there's a week where, the one obscure item is fennel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make sure that one of I usually put 2 to 3 recipes in the newsletter every week. I'm going to make sure that at least one of those recipes calls for fennel. Because I know that most people who get this fennel are not going to know what to do with it. They're going to say, is this a candy? Because, it tastes like licorice. So do I just eat this like licorice? But, it's surprising the feedback I've received from people when I do include the recipes for those more obscure crops. And they're like, wow, I would have never thought to eat this. But because I got into my CSA and I didn't want it to go to waste, and you gave me a recipe, I cooked it up and it was great.
Right.
So, it's broadening that horizon because, I believe that the more diversity of vegetables you're eating in your diet, the more vitamins and minerals you're covering, because each vegetable has different vitamins and minerals. So that diversification is really important.
Absolutely. I know I've been taught that your plate should be colorful. The more colors and textures you have on your plate, and the more flavors, the more different types of flavors, sweet, salty, savory, spicy. And let's be honest, it's just a lot more interesting.
Oh yeah, it's a lot more interesting. And, if people are willing to try it, I think, oftentimes they enjoy it.
What brought you, and I know some of the backstory, and I'm kind of leading you to this. You're back kind of like where you started from. You've come full circle back to within a mile or two of where you grew up. Talk a little bit about the journey and what brought you back to farming as opposed to out there chasing the great American success story and the almighty dollar.
Yeah. So I grew up on a hobby farm. My folks, they had full-time jobs outside of the farm that brought in the income. But they had very big gardens. We had chickens, goats, dogs, cats, merely for our own benefits and for sharing with others. So I was very much exposed to the farm life on a small scale growing up.
Cool.
The country life. Oh yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a great experience. And from there, after high school, I decided to pursue college, and I was undecided between engineering and business my first 2 years at UW-Platteville. I decided on business by the end of my sophomore year. After that, I got a job working in marketing for a company. 2 years there, found it wasn't a great fit for me, so then I worked for a nonprofit organization, and then a job became open here in my hometown area where I live now, with a farm just outside of Janesville, for a full-time employment opportunity at a produce farm. And I had worked there previously on summer breaks between college, so I took it. So I moved back to this area. I worked at that farm for a year. And even before I started at this farm, I felt a calling to go into starting my own farm. Actually, I felt that calling probably my second year in at that marketing job at the corporation. And from there, it was just kind of having to wait for that opportunity. And I felt like getting this full-time job back in my hometown was that door to start my farm. So I worked there for a year. And then I ended up starting my own farm after that because just different things fell in place with land and with equipment and with just jump-starting my business. So that started, this will be my third year running my own farm. And yeah, that's
amazing. I applaud you for taking the leap, though. As a serial entrepreneur myself, I know what it's like to step off the edge and the amount of faith that takes. Faith not only in yourself, but faith in God to say, here I am, do with me what you will, and it's working, man. Your farm's going, you sell out your shares. How much time is there for people now, since it's the winter, to get in? I assume still have some openings for this coming season.
Oh yeah. I just opened CSA registration December 2nd, I think it was. And so my early bird deadline goes until February 15th.
Okay.
So if you sign up by then, you get a discount on the share. And then the regular sign-up deadline goes until April 1st.
Now, I have another question for you. I was speaking with a good friend of mine who's interested in joining the farm, but his question was, is there a way, because I'd like to learn more about cultivation and doing my own garden. Can I get involved in more than just picking up my bag of groceries? I want to learn about farming and tell us about that. What kind of opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my objectives is actually to teach people how to grow their own food. It's very surprising. Even people who live in a city, it's amazing what you can do with just an eighth of an acre of grass in your backyard if you live in the middle of the city. You can get so much produce in that little bit. So on my farm, I actually offer work share. So people who want to become a member of the farm, they actually have the option to pay off either half or all of their CSA share by working on the farm through the growing season. As they're out here, I'm not just having them go pull weeds while I go do computer work and say, have fun. you know, I, I'm working alongside, and to backtrack a little, last year I think I had about 5 or 6 work share employees on my farm, and it was a great experience. I'm working along with them. At least from my perspective, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
They told me too that it was a great experience. So um, they're working alongside with me, and I'm teaching them why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Like, why is this growing this way, or why are we pruning these tomatoes? What is the advantage of this? So like, it's very involved and very much gives the opportunity for learning. And somebody who maybe doesn't want a CSA share but still wants to come and work on the farm, great. I don't advertise that, but I had a few people like that last year where they come out, they work, and then I pay them in produce.
That's very cool. Well,
Yeah,
and to me, I could see being a share of the farm and getting my produce, and I'm busy and I don't maybe have the time to commit to being out there consistently enough to trade for a work share. But if I want to just come out and spend an afternoon or a day and am willing to go work alongside everybody, I can get exposed to it. I could bring my daughter out and show her what it's like. It's
yeah, absolutely. I mainly advertise it as paying off half or full, just to sort of have some sort of structure,
Mhm.
and it's for those people who do want that to have those, because I really do need the help through the growing season. So
Sure.
it's nice to have those commitments up front. But at the same time, I do allow people who want to come out just here and there to work. Great. I don't advertise it, but it is there. Absolutely. If it's a CSA member and they've paid for their entire share and they want to come out and work on the farm, I'll send them home with extra produce if they want it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you heard it here first on the Razor's Edge. It's not
Yeah,
advertised, but you can come out to the farm and work for produce. We'll
that's
work for food.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell people, like, if they want to come out and tour the farm, great. But if you're here for a long time during the growing season, you better bring some more clothes.
Get out of your office, get out of your own head, get out of the city, go out to the farm,
Yep.
walk around, get some mud on your boots. Um, I can't help but think this has been also a great spiritual food for you, a growth experience to get back to doing what you have a passion for, what you did growing up. Talk a little bit about how does this fit with, because I happen to know a little bit of your story, being a member of a new upstart church is
Yeah.
you're a pioneer. You're a pioneer at heart.
I profess to be a born again Christian. So, this farm is very much foundationally on Christ and what he has done in my life. And so it is to reflect, basically, my goal is to reflect that
Mhm.
in a sense. And what greater way than being out in his creation? It's very much nourishment for me when I'm out there and I am in nature, and it's that's where I can feel very close to him, because just seeing a plant and how you start from seed and then it becomes like this. I was telling somebody the other day, when I order my seeds in the winter time, I get all of my seeds for the year literally in a box that fits inside of my mailbox. And it just blows my mind because as a result of that, I'm, I'm providing, like last year was 33 boxes a week for 22 weeks of produce. And then I'm taking a whole load of produce to the farmer's market. And it's crazy because I just love it because it just really like shows his glory and like how he works in creation. I believe in eating healthy and eating well and taking care of yourself. And that sort of ties in with, that's what God wants for us. He wants us to be well. He wants us to be eating good food and eating, for lack of better words, back to what Eden was, I believe. Right. I think there's a lot of things that we lost from that. And I believe that the food I'm producing is kind of helping to bring us back to that holistic eating lifestyle.
I like that picture that you painted in my mind of a box that multiplies into produce that would fill up a tractor trailer. I mean, it just the bounty that's there for everybody, and the fact that you've been called to do this and to spread that is to his glory. I think that's fabulous. When I was there for our visit, you have almost a monastic sort of life. It's simple. You've got just what you need. You've got the farmhouse and the buildings. And when I walked in, you were eating, but I saw what you were eating. You're eating a plate and you had some rice, some grain, and you're eating some fresh carrots. And you're living that. You're not just talking about it. You're living it. What do you see going forward? And I try to live in the moment and I try not to get all caught up in the past and the future and all that. But I know that we talked a little bit about you've got a vision for what this can grow to be. Talk a little bit about the future of Upbeet Produce.
There's a huge demand for local food. And maybe the growth looks like expanding into the city of Janesville. I do have a desire someday to be able to bring about more urban farming in the city of Janesville. There's so many plots of grass I feel like that are unused in that city, and I would love to get some community gardens there and be able to teach the community. So maybe the growth looks like that. While at the same time keeping the farm out here in the country with the CSA, with the farmers market, but doing a side project of getting into the city.
That's fabulous, and I'd love to be part of that. That would be exciting. I think about it because, for example, one of my businesses, Better MD, has shipments we get coming in, weekly, and part of the detritus and garbage that gets created from work is these pallets that come in. And I've seen so many neat things that could be done, even with a pallet when you turn it on edge and put bags in, seeing produce and stuff that can be grown vertically, the little 4x4 boxes that you can make that you can grow in your tiny little backyard. Well, I think I told you, but I'll add to our story. The backyard here at my place, which is on the outskirts of town, I had all this landscaping that I just got tired of it, and I dug it all up and turned it by hand and turned it into a great big vegetable garden. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I just put things in all over. And quite honestly, some of the things went to seed. I just let them go. I had more fun, just like you said, watching it grow and watching it start from basically bare dirt to this big, lush, overflowing garden. And, I probably fed half of my product to the wild animals and insects, but they got to eat too, right?
By your choice or not by your choice?
By my inaction and my laziness, I think, more than anything. But I got what I needed from it. I really did. And next year I'll come back, and next year, probably with some of your help, I'll do a better job of getting what my family needs out of it. But you got to start somewhere.
I believe that eating the right foods, it's like all encompassing. It affects everything.
Well, and right now, everybody struggles with the holidays, or I'm assuming everybody does like me. And the impulses to, here, have a cookie, these treats, and you want to participate and enjoy the season with everybody. I honestly, I poisoned myself pretty good with candy from Halloween, and then I just recovered, and wham, there's Thanksgiving, and so I know that if I were to go back in time, old Mike would have rolled his eyes when he heard me talking about this now, but it's the truth, and the cure for it is to get up, move around, and put good food in. And I don't know where I heard this recently. I know you mentioned it, and I know that I firmly believe this is now getting back to eating food as our medicine. And
Yeah.
instead of eating medicine like food, which is what I did before, in the morning I'd get up and I'd have a smorgasbord of pills. Now I treat myself with what I eat, and the results are a lot better. I got to say this, food and eating and nutrition is foundational to living, not just to good health, to living. And
Absolutely.
and God bless you for what you're doing. I think that Upbeat Produce is a fantastic mission.